All right. On that note, we will begin in with the first talk for today. We have Sasidhar here to give the first talk on MCP Unlocked, the key to smarter AI contextualization. And okay, I feel we're all settled in. Can we start with a quick round of applause for Sasidhar? Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. So, I am Sasidhar. I work as a data scientist in a financial services firm. I am going to talk about MCP Unlocked, the key to smarter AI contextualization. So, what I am going to cover today is a little intuition behind why MCP, what is MCP, how does it work, what are the frameworks available for us to work with MCP, challenges, some what next, and also a quick demo. Can you tell me what is one of the biggest challenges while using LLMs? Sorry? Context, okay. Hallucination, I think you hit on the nail directly, okay. So there are many of them: bias and fairness, data privacy, outdated knowledge, because these models are trained only up to a certain point of time, they don't know what's currently happening, security vulnerabilities, but the biggest challenge is hallucinations and factual inaccuracies of this, right? So how do we reduce these hallucinations? There are multiple ways. One, you can even use different models trained with different things. They can also give you a better, accuracies. But the other thing is retrieved augmented generation, where RAG, for example, you have, like your own, company documents that you really want to give it. You can give as a context to the model and ask only answer from that context rather than answering from the world's knowledge. To a certain extent, you can do prompt engineering and you give specific instructions in the prompt, and you can also give like a few short examples in the prompt, right? I think that is the way you can reduce the hallucinations. The other thing is fine tuning. If you want to do the fine tuning, generally it costs like effort and money also, right? So somewhere in August, I asked this question to like Claude, say that like where and when Python conference is happening, PyCon India 2025 is happening. So without anything, I think it was not having any access to any of the other information. It says that apologies, I cannot really find this information because I don't have that knowledge, but it gave me something in previously it is happened in somewhere in September, October timeframe, probably that could be the thing. This is what is the response. The same question this time, I enabled a tool called web search. I given permission for the model, you can go and do web search and then bring me the relevant information. So it went to the web, searched for the relevant information of PyCon India 2025. With that context, it was able to give me the perfect answer. So the context is very, very important when you're really working with the models. And models are only as good as the context given to them, right? So now we understand a little bit on the context piece of it. If you want to develop an LLM application, let's say I'm developing 4 LLM applications, and then I need to interact with different type of external systems like a database, a Google Drive, GitHub, and also Slack. These are the external systems I want to interact in my LLM applications. Currently, without any of the standardization, you have to integrate each of these LLM application or build a custom integration with each of these external systems, right? So there are 4 systems and you have to build for each one of them these custom integrations for each application. This is without MCP. Let's say if you have a standardized way of interacting with these external applications, I build it once, but I use across all of these applications, right? If that is there, awesome. You can really do that piece. That is the problem that MCP is trying to solve. So you build it once and you use it across all of the different LLM applications. So you got a little bit of, like understanding why MCP now. Let us get what is MCP. MCP is an open protocol that everyone is free to use and implement, and is a standardized way to build custom integrations for AI applications, right? And actually you have a flexibility to change between applications, right? You have built once, but you can change between the applications and take your context wherever you really want. And also another advantage is there is a growing list of these pre-built integrations. For example, GitHub, there is already a plugin, it's created. You don't have to really create again. You can start plugging that same thing into your application directly. A quick analogy, if you take REST APIs, right? The standard is the way how web application interact with the backend. That is the REST APIs. And language server protocols where if IDs need to interact with language specific tools, this is the standard that where like you develop once and you can use across different IDEs, you get the same experience. Exactly likewise, MCP is the standardized how you AI applications interact with external systems. Okay, we'll get a little bit into that. What is that interact means here? Before that, I was just trying to understand what is the interest that is growing in the community for MCP. And this is just a comparison thanks to starhistory.com. I think this is a comparison across different, frameworks available, right? I think Crew AI, LangGraph, Swarm, so many things are there. I just looked few of them and then see how the interest is growing. If you look at it, the x-axis has the GitHub stars. X-axis is the time frame and y-axis you have the GitHub stars. Within a short period of time, there is a lot of interest that is there in the community for MCP. Actually, there are some events that have really happened, but before even MCP, what is really started is OpenAI has a function or tool calling in June 2023 somewhere. I think this is not a standard, but people were really using it. It is really excited that you can really use the tools within the models, but there is no standard way. In November 2024, MCP has been open sourced by Anthropic. Actually, Anthropic was working for their internal projects inside, and they thought this is going to be useful as a standard if we can really give it to the community. They've open sourced it. And in February, Mahesh Murag, who is really the one who developed or created this framework in the Anthropic, he has given a talk in AI Engineer Summit. Actually, that's where if you really see that, I think after February it has picked up a lot and there are a lot of interest has grown in the community. So now there are a lot of different members in the ecosystem and how it really helps each one of them, right? So for AI application developers, you just have to connect to a lot of these, available with zero additional work, you can really connect to them. For tool and API developers, you build it once and then see the people adopting and then the growing adoption. And for end users, you say more powerful and context-rich AI applications. And definitely for enterprises, there is a separation of concerns between the AI product teams. I think now you have, MCP development versus the real application development, there is a separation of concerns. Okay, now you know what is MCP. Let's get a little bit onto how does it really work, right? It's a client-server architecture. So host has multiple clients. I think each client will maintain a one-to-one connection with the server. And MCP servers are the lightweight programs, enable specific capabilities. So if you look at the client is communicating with the server using JSON RPC 2.0, that is the communication protocol, but it uses different transport layer to really work with it. Like for local server, standard input output it can really use, but whereas for the remote servers it can use server sent event HTTP SSE or streamable HTTP. Actually in March they have updated the specification with streamable HTTP. So I think that is going to be the more recommended one. And actually it is SSE is marked for the deprecation also. So this is the overall way how it really communicates. Now let us understand a little bit of what are these things are exposed by the server and what is the client is consuming. So the client invokes tools, queries for resources and interpolates prompts, but whereas the server exposes all of these things, tools, resources and prompt templates. So tools are nothing but functions that can be invoked by the client. And what are these things? Like if you can, these are some of the examples like search flights, send messages or create calendar events. And these are model controlled, meaning the model will decide which tool to use at what point of time. And resources are read-only data exposed by the server. And these are documents, calendars, an inventory of, like an item. These are controlled by the application. And prompt templates are predefined templates for AI interactions, right? So these are the user controlled. Examples are plan my vacation, summarize my meetings, or draft an email. So these are user controlled, meaning the user decides what action or what prompt that he really want to use based on his needs. Okay, so the ecosystem has a lot of things, right? I think there are 9 SDKs available. I think this somewhere, I think even few days back, they have released a PHP SDK also. So, but what we are interested in the Python, but there are 1,000 plus available servers. I think this list keeps growing, like I think 1,000 plus can be 2,005 to whatever, right? I think this keeps going a lot. And there are 70 plus compatible clients. Clients like Visual Studio Code, a lot of, like Fast MCP, there are a lot of different clients are there. But not all the clients have all the functionalities of MCP at this point of time, but they are really catching up. Okay, coming to the frameworks now, we have the Fast MCP. In November 2024, 24th November 2024 was MCP, like MCP open sourced. And the first version of Fast MCP was released in 30th November 2024. I mean, probably I think Anthropic and team was working on it. I think they have released it, but I think it's very few days. I think you got the library available. And this is not only just the core MCP, but it has a lot many more things like generating servers from REST APIs, server proxying. It's have more capabilities. But version 1.0 of this one was officially put into official MCP SDK. This is MCP SDK. This is actually official Python SDK. Fast MCP has having more capabilities than the core specification. So, I mean, this will help you build both clients and servers, as well as it exposes all the resources, prompts, and tools, and use standard transports like STDIO and SSE and even streamable HTTP. Handle all MCP protocol messages and lifecycle events. So we will talk about this in the probably in the demo. What does it like messages and lifecycle events? And if you want to choose between these two, like Fast MCP versus the Python SDK, these are some of the like criteria, like where if you want to do a prioritized rapid development, because there is a lot of boilerplate code really comes with Fast MCP. You don't have to write a lot of them, so it's easy. And it is a high-level API. You don't have to get into the low-level things of here. And the seamless fast API integration, as well as potentially if a cloud-based deployment, like options are there, that is possible with Fast MCP. But if Python SDK, MCP Python SDK, you have maximum control over the MCP server. I think you want to go to the granular details, more explicit implementation, and direct interaction with the protocol internal. If it is crucial, then you better go with the MCP Python SDK. Okay, now you understood all these things, and how do we really set this up? If I want to really, create my own MCP server, UV is the extremely fast Python package and project manager. And if you have not explored till now, I think I strongly recommend you go and look at it. I think once you really start using it, probably you like that. And if you just initiate a project and you add what are the libraries that you really wanted. In this, you are adding MCP CLI and Yahoo Finance and HTTPS, which is required for my particular demo. And you start the server, and particularly the server that I'm really starting here is in the dev mode. UV run MCP dev. Actually, it's dev mode is like for the developer to really debug and like test the application. And how do we really define these different type of resources that we're really talking about, right? You just import the Fast MCP and then create an instance of the MCP, and you use a decorator mcp.tool that will, like you can give any Python function which will really, like it will become a tool for you. That becomes a tool. And it's important to really write that, like if you see that like documentation below that, like in the function, doc string, that is very, very important, because that's where the model will understand what is the purpose of this tool and what is the inputs that we really provide to it and what is the output that we really get it back. So similarly, you can define other things like resources. And resources, when you define it, you can give a URI. And URI is, it's your own, whatever that is there, but it should be unique within that application, what you are really, in the server that you are really building in. Here we have defined two of them. One is companies. Again, there is same decorator, mcp.resource, and then you put the companies. That will give you all the companies, whatever the tickers of all the companies. That is a static one. And the second one is a dynamic one. I want a particular ticker information or a company information along with the ticker based on the ticker. So that is company with the ticker as an input. And the last one is a prompt. Prompt is, all these prompts are time tested, like you have done a lot of prompt engineering and you want to expose directly to this user rather than user is starting this again from the scratch. So again, using mcp.prompt, we can define this. So at the end, once you have your mcp.run with the whatever the transport you want to run, transport layer you want to run it, you can just run that. Okay. Now let's quickly get onto the demo. So what I'm trying to do is I'm running that MCP inspector. So which will open my MCP inspector here. And if you look at this is primarily as a developer, it is not the end consumer that who are really using this MCP server. As a developer, I want to test my like MCP server that which I have built it, and I'm going to use this, right? So let's look at it. I connect. It's connected, and then it's given me all those different things that we have talked about: resources, prompts, and then the tools on the top. If you really look at it, and if you see now when I click on the button connect, it has established a connection between the client and the server. That's what is initialize. This is initialize is the method that is really like a request that is sending from the client to the server so that it initializes the connection. Now if I want to look at all the resources, I can look at all the resources here. These are the resources, but there is one resource here. This is a static resource, and I can look at all this, and then this is the developer preview that you really get it because it is really telling you what is that resources that you really got. This is all the ticker information that you got for all of them. But if I go and look at the list template, this is the resource template. If I say this one here, I can type any of. So I got only ticker details for the IBM. So this is for a particular ticker, then I'm really going to get that. Similarly, I have prompts here and list the prompts. And if you look at this, again, for a particular prompt, I just want to say, so I got the prompt here. I think this is the prompt. This is actually a small prompt, but I think if in a realistic scenario, you write the prompt with all the instructions and then keep it ready, it will replace all the variables that we are really given. In this particular case, the ticker is replaced. It is trying to analyze a particular stock for the performance, and it is replaced with that. So, and the last one, we have the tools. But when I'm doing all these things, I think probably if you observe below, there are a lot of methods that are really going on. So when the client, after establishing the connection, it will ask for all this information like what tools are available, what resources are available, what prompts are available. You give it to me. It's not that each time it will really go and ask. It will take all this information. And once you have all this information, then it will, when the model says that you invoke a particular tool, then it will send a request to invoke this particular tool with this particular, parameters. So let us again look at, tools. These are the tools here. And then the companies, again here, these are the company details. I can say, and then run the tool. So here, if you look at the method that is really, it is called is the run the tool with all these, which tool it has really called, and then what are the parameters that is really passed. This is where the invocation of the tool. So these are the methods that's been communicating between the client and the server. So I mentioned some of the lifecycle events and the messages, right? So these resources that are there at the server probably can change. Somebody can really go and modify it. So what client can do is client can subscribe to a particular resource saying that if this resource changes, please notify me. And the server, whenever the resource changes, it will notify the client that is really already connected to it. So this is some of the events that you can really take the exchanges. So what you have really seen here is the way that you, as a developer, that you really go and, like inspect or, test or debug the server. Now let's get back to the real, this one. Let me stop my. Okay. So now I'm using VS Code with GitHub Copilot to what are the server that I have built I want to really consume, right, as an user. So now if you go here, this says that it is MCP. Okay. So towards the end, you see all these MCP servers running, right? One is MCP server. Don't worry, this pylons, but you have stocks and weather. These are the two servers that I am running. If you want to inspect or see how there is a connecting, it is just a simple JSON configuration, okay, giving all the details of how to connect to the servers. Or you can add any servers. In this particular case, both of them are standard input-output. That's what is locally running. But you can add any other HTTP remote servers also to this list, and then it will start bringing up those servers, right? That's what happens here. So now we see how to interact with these, different servers, right? So if I go here, if I say I want to add context, how can I say MCP resources are available to me now here? I can go back and tell the same thing. Now here I say IBM. This is the ticker. Oops, sorry. MCP, get company ticker, and then say IBM. So now if you see the IBM has been attached to my resource here. This is become a resource here, it is attached to it. So similarly, if you want to tools, anything is not under my control. As I told, tools are going to be done by the model will really figure out which tool to really use it. Similarly, if I want to use templates, I can go and use this resources is there, MCP. All these resources are available to you as in the workspace. I can say, I got my template here, prompt template. I think I can now go ahead and run this prompt template. So in the interest of time, what I have done is I have already run these things, and let us quickly look at it. What are the things that are available to us, right? I think so from the beginning, I'll just quickly walk through. Okay, so here, when I say get my company details, at this point of give company details for Apple Inc. I have not attached any resource here, but it understands I am looking for Apple Inc. and then get company details. So it will go and try to execute this tool, get company details with the ticker. Here, the ticker symbol has been already, the model knows this is the company, and then I have to provide a ticker as an input. So it is, from its knowledge, it has really brought the ticker and then put it here. And this is the output I got it, right? So this is the invocation of the tool based on the prompt that I have really given here. And it has invoked that particular tool and then got the result, and then now it is putting me this result in a format where I can really consume. These are the company details for the Apple. Similarly, I can even attach this as an IBM. IBM as a company I can attach here and then get company details, right? So now what it is because it's already there is a context here. So now I know it's for the IBM, it has brought down all these IBM details. So this is, but only a different way is attaching a resource and then asking, putting a prompt there. Now, this is actually a little bit, you want to analyze the performance of a particular company, and then what are the 3 months performance data, I need to really use it and use the company details to analyze it, right? So what it has done, it has run this particular one to get all the company details first, and then it has gone back and got all the company performance data or price data for last 3 months. And then finally it is generated a report saying that this is the company performance details for this particular company. So stocks, what are the different information that is about this particular company. Okay, so I think last one is a little bit interesting. I am having both MCP servers here, weather as well as the company. What I've done is I say go back and get all the company details for a particular company, Microsoft Corporation, and the headquarters of this company, you give me the weather details, current weather details, whatever. So now either two servers are there. Now it first went to the company and got all the company details. And then it found out what is the headquarters, which is the Redmond, Washington. For that one, he has gone back and then got all the forecast details of the weather forecast. So now if you look at here, even though there are multiple servers are running, it has established a separate connection with each of these different servers. Two clients are running, and then based on the input that we're really giving it, it is really trying to go and communicate with those servers and then giving the results. But the LLM is trying to get all these responses and finally consolidating for me. These are the company details for Microsoft, and these are the performance details, or sorry, weather details for this particular headquarters. That is what is really happening. So quickly going back to a few more things. That's some part of the demo. So what next, right? So obviously there is a lot going on the authentication and security. Even though these are now, you can use the, for particularly for streamable HTTP, you can use the HTTP headers where you can pass the WAUth tokens and all of them. But still there are a lot going on in the authentication and security. So all the servers that have been built right now, if you want to really go and search them, I think there are some GitHub repos, somewhere somebody is really tracking on all of them. But I think it could be a good thing where if you have a registry of all these MCP servers where I put my MCP, like all the servers register with this service, and I can easily discover. And also, who is publishing? This could be even there may be some malicious code, somebody put, like a MCP server, you're trying to interact with that, right? I think it's going to be a problem. So if some governance is there where this MCP server registered, who is really publishing, whether they have been validated so that I can really use them, that would be a good thing. And enterprise adoption, as the security authentication really going up and enterprise adoption also is increasing, but right now it is really low, and then not many enterprises are ready to adopt because of the security reasons. And support for multi-modality, right? I think you have a lot of different modalities are there, like, not only the text, but audio and video. Still, there is a lot more things to be done on that particular piece. So in conclusion, MCP is an open protocol that standardizes how you interact with how AI applications interact with external systems. And it is a fast developing specification in SDK and community. And there is a high potential for agentic AI development, right? So actually, in fact, this will give you for each agent, if you are really building, you can really attach an MCP, this one, it has all the tools, prompts, resources, everything available to that particular agent. So like even Google has come up with the agent-to-agent protocol. This is for one agent. MCP solves the problem for one agent. But if you want to orchestrate multiple agents and agentic AI development, communicate between the agents and all, they have come up with another protocol, A2A, agent-to-agent protocol. I think that is going to be a complementary for this MCP, and then that is going to see how you can interact with the complex, agents-to-agent interactions. And I have a few resources, here. Particularly first one is the documentation, and this one, and the second one is on the Mahesh Murag's talk. I strongly recommend that you really go through. And there are MCP, Hugging Face, as well as deep learning. There are courses are there which are very good if you can do that. And there is a blog post from Anthropic. And finally, the MCP demo which I have given as a GitHub reference. And that's all. Thank you.